Good morning, everyone. I'm back here again to try and get my son's Jeep Wrangler back in running condition again. This Jeep Wrangler is an 89 Islander edition. We built a stroker motor for it. It's a 4.0 straight six with a 4.2 crankshaft and 4.2 piston rods with a 4.0 head, stock intake and exhaust. The one barrel carburetor that was on it wasn't nearly enough to handle this rebuild, so we had to go with an Edelbrock 600 series. The machinist said that he has had these engines mapped out before. It's board 40 over. He said we should expect to get 275 horsepower out of it with about 350 foot-pounds of torque. It's running again. We took it to the store, put $500 worth of gas in the tank, and on the way back we noticed that there's a drip coming from the master cylinder for the clutch. In the last video, we had to bleed the clutch because all the fluid had drained out. I assumed maybe just for sitting for 2 years, but now I know that there's a leak. So I've got a new master cylinder, and we're going to replace the one that's in there. I've got a drip pan so I can open the bleeder valve and let the fluid out. But first, to see where this is connected to the clutch pedal, it's way up in there at the top of the pedal. There is a cotter pin holding a little shaft running between the clutch pedal and the master cylinder shaft. So that's where I'm going to begin. Let's drain the fluid. If I remember right, it's one of these wrenches. Oh, there it is. So first things first, under the Jeep, on the side of the transmission, is the two lines. This one that comes out here in the middle of nowhere, that is the bleeder valve. And I should be able to get it open enough to let all the fluid drain out. I'll just let that work. It won't take very long at all. All right, well, as you can see, this cotter pin did not come out willingly. It was a bear. Not sure how easily that shaft is going to come off there, but I think it'll come off easier if we unbolt this side and give us some wiggle room. There's a bolt up here and a bolt down at the bottom, and there's a line right here for the brakes. I don't know if you can see it in there, but we'll have to disconnect this line as well. So let me get some tools and get to that. Okay, a lot of the things on this Jeep are original. So things I haven't broken loose before, I'm gonna put a little liquid wrench on. Help loosen things up a little bit and keep me from breaking bolts. Now the main bolts are 1/2 inch. The line is 7/16. I have a line wrench that I would prefer to use if I can get in there on it. stars have to align just right for this wrench to be on there, because I don't have a lot of room. Oop, I turned it pretty easy. Now that it's broken loose, this open end will be easier to deal with. And I want to get this line free before I take the main bolts out, because it's really holding the cylinder in place for me. Hoping that you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm not sure though, because I can barely see what I'm doing. Okay, now let's go after the other bolts. Let's see how they're gonna be. Not too bad. Leaking brake fluid must have kept them lubricated a little bit. Let's see how the top one's gonna be. Can we get in there at all? Not too bad. So let me get these bolts out and we'll pick up from there. Okay, I have both of the bolts out and the line disconnected. Now, it moves a little bit freer. Let's see if we can do anything about getting this shaft off. There we go, slipped right off. Nice. We'll take a little bit of emery cloth and sand that down a little bit. Maybe it'll roll a little bit easier. Okay. Get it out of there. Okay, well, kind of looks like the other one. Let's see, I'll set them down and we'll compare them. I just want to take a hard look at what you're replacing, just to make sure the distances look about the same, even though this slides in and out. The line's in the same place, the canister's about the same size, it sticks out from the firewall about the same length, so it's not going to interfere with anything else. Now this boot is probably what was leaking, or a seal inside of here. And if you were paying $1,000 a week in child support, you might want to get a little kit and rebuild this. But since my kids are already out of college, I'm just going to put a new one on and save myself a whole bunch of time instead of saving money. So let me go sand the peg on the inside, and then we'll reinstall that. Okay, I'm about ready to put this back in here. Clean it up as much as I can. Let's see, what does that feel like? It's a little rough. Let me get a little Scotch-Brite and do a little more. All right, the master cylinder is in. The line is tight. The cotter pin is back in under the clutch pedal. So now we need to tighten this line back up underneath. You can add a little fluid without it all draining out. Now, here is the plug get this little wrench on there, tighten it up a little bit. And the wrench that fits that little bleeder valve turns out to be a 9/32. All right, so we're going to add some brake fluid to the clutch master cylinder. That's what it calls for, .3 clean brake fluid. So we're going to fill it almost all the way up because we're going to bleed the air out of it and the level's going to go down. So I'm going to push on the clutch with my hand and work some of those air bubbles out of the master cylinder. Not worried about bleeding the whole system right now. Just want to get the master cylinder purged. No sense sending all this air down through the line. Just keep an eye on the level. We don't want it to run out of fluid and suck more air in. So we'll just keep pumping the clutch pedal till the air bubbles stop. Or till we have to add more fluid, one or the other. Actually, I'm only going to pump it probably about 25 times because that's what the directions said. And then we'll just start bleeding the whole system. Of course, we'll have to have a buddy for that, namely my son John, while I'm underneath opening and closing the bleeder valve. I don't know how many times I've pressed this clutch, but I'm still seeing a lot of air bubbles, so I'm going to continue pressing it. As long as the air is coming out, I feel like I'm doing good. Yes, I could have pulled the hood off, but it's not like this Jeep is going to sit in my garage for days on end being worked on. I got to drive it to the tire store today to have new tires put on it. So I want to make this as quick and painless as possible. Still full of air. Okay, I'll get back with you on the next step. Well, my son John helped me finish bleeding the clutch reservoir out, so it's full to the max level with no more air bubbles coming through it. We'll call it job complete. And the next thing for this Jeep is to go to the tire store. It's in bad need of some new tires. Got some good looking Mickey Thompsons on the back. The only problem is they're about 6 or 7 years old. Tires are only good for about 6 years. After that, no matter how much tread they got on them or how good they look, they're just not safe. So we're going to get 4 new tires on the Jeep and a new tire for the spare. But it looks like we're going to get some more liquid sunshine. So I'll throw the canvas over it because I got to drive it in about an hour when the Corvette is ready.